This video is sponsored by Squarespace, but more on that later. Hi friends, happy Pride. A return of the funniest shirt ever. We've got Eddie and Venom. Venom 3 trailer recently dropped. I'm excited. We've got, Jeremy Renner, / Hawkeye, Bucky Barnes, and the Property Brothers, all at Pride. The layers run deep. Anyways, hello, welcome to another video. Happy Pride. It's super late in the month. I've been super disorganized, coming back to work, kind of behind on everything. So it's very late, but for the rest of the month, I'm having a Pride sale. You can get 20% off your total order of $10 or more with code PRIDE24. Link is in the description. Also, thanks to my patrons. Your names are on screen. Thank you so much for being a patron. I love you. Every month there's fun exclusive stuff, including a print and sticker. Here's the ones for this month, as well as an original, a podcast, a video, and early access to art. Super fun over there. Go check it out if you haven't already. It's an amazing way to support me, and I'm having so much fun with it. So thank you for checking that out. Now, into today's video. As always, for Pride, we're continuing the Pride tradition of doing a Make It Gay. I've been doing this series for a while now. It's really become a wonderful, glorious beast, and I'm just always thrilled to do one. You guys participated in this one. You helped me pick the piece, and I also asked you guys for what you would like to see in terms of representation, all sorts of different representation. I got some great recommendations, some great requests. There's a core idea to these pieces that I stick to, which is basically that I take beautiful classic pieces of art and I insert queer couples into them because I love classic art, but I hate that I never see queer couples, of which I'm a queer person and I like to see myself represented. So I figured I may as well just do it myself. This time we're doing an Al Parker piece, who is an artist that I only recently learned about. I stumbled across one of his pieces on Pinterest, fell in love. It's not really a significant piece. It's just a Whitman's chocolate box advertisement from, I believe, a Life magazine, maybe? Yeah, Life magazine. So there's not much in terms of art history here to go through. We usually do the little art history lesson. Probably won't do that. If we do, it'll be really brief. But yeah, let's get into painting. I'm doing gouache again. I've been doing a lot of gouache for the Make It Gays. It just always looks so good. And I want to make these pieces as good as possible. So I keep going back to it. But yeah, without further ado, let's make it gay. Let's go. Let's take a brief moment to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an amazing all-in-one website platform that allows creatives, freelancers, business owners, etc. to represent themselves online, stand out online, and do what they need to do. I just recently redid my website, now knowing kind of better what I want to do and how I want to represent myself. And Squarespace really was so fun to work with. It made it so easy. Squarespace is great because they have these templates that you can work with. It makes designing a website really, really easy to start. There are all sorts of use cases in mind for these templates, so kind of whatever you need to do, whatever your page needs to look like, there's going to be something there for you. But of course, we're all doing something different, and Squarespace understands that, which is why they have Fluid Engine, which is a next generation website design software built right into Squarespace, and it basically functions as a drag and drop. This is just so great. It allows you to make both your desktop and mobile website look absolutely perfect. And you can just customize it down to like every minuscule detail, which is really, really nice. Squarespace also allows for member-only areas, so you can make certain parts of your website only accessible through like having a password. It allows you to better connect with your audience. You can monetize your content better. You can basically make like this exclusive little clubhouse for you and your audience. Whatever you're trying to do, if you're trying to sell goods, create a membership, represent yourself professionally through a portfolio, portfolio, whatever it may be, Squarespace has what you need. So if you would like to take your business to the next step, if you would like to represent yourself professionally, I really recommend checking out Squarespace. You can go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and whenever you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/Lilstarnerd for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring. Now, let's get back into the art. So here we are again with another Make It Gay. I know I introduced the concept in the intro, but let me say it again for my own sake, I guess. This is an ongoing series that I've been doing for a while now, and the whole point for me is to insert queer couples into art that I love, because I've always loved old art, especially like the really old, classical Raphaelite paintings, pre-Raphaelite paintings, but I always hated that there felt like this barrier between me and the art, because I never saw myself or just other queer people in the art. There was always this degree of separation. But that isn't to say that there's absolutely like no queer art that has existed before this modern age. But my point still stands. It's not like a comment. I wanted more gay stuff. I wanted the gay stuff where I wanted it. So I started recreating some of my favorite romantic pieces with queer couples. I figured if I want it done, I should just do it myself. The series has evolved a bit since then. It's not quite as simple. I don't always restrict myself to just romantic pieces, and I've gotten quite a few requests to show more than just couples, to show other aspects of queerness. But I will be honest, to me, the core of this series is about queer romantic couples represented in the same way that straight people get all the time. While, of course, a big part of this series is queerness, that's obviously like the point, to me, it's more about, oh, look at this beautiful painting that just happens to feature queer people, the same way you see something beautiful that always happens to feature straight people. It's not necessarily about, I don't know how else to explain it. It's not necessarily about like the historical impact or whatever. It's to me, it's about the ease that straight people have. As a queer person, I also want to experience that in all these beautiful things that I admire. So I've definitely found myself gravitating to those kinds of pieces, you know what I mean? Tender, loving, romantic pieces, even when I set out with different intentions that will fulfill the requests of you guys to do those more impactful historical scenes or other kinds of representation outside of romantic couplings. That was definitely what happened this time. I've been given a lot of great suggestions for ways to represent queer people in fun historical ways that could fit into the art pieces that I'm interested in, but I couldn't help myself from picking out a piece that was just cute and domestic once again. It is my weakness. I somehow have never actually heard of Al Parker before this, which surprises me because he definitely has a Leyendecker Rockwell type feel, and you guys know I love both of them. But I was scrolling through some of his stuff on Pinterest and I really, really loved the vibe. It felt very pulp novel-esque, which I love, and there were lots of really cute domestic, homely scenes, that classic Americana advertisement type stuff, all stuff that I'm eating up. I had a few of his pieces picked out for today's Make It Gay, and I had you guys vote on Instagram for your favorite, because I honestly really couldn't pick one that I liked most or had a plan for, but I was glad that this was the one that won. It got voted on by a good majority. I definitely think, especially now, that it's the best fit for recreating. So let's talk about this piece, but mostly about Al Parker. Actually, pretty much only about Al Parker, because there's really not much to say about this piece. It's an advertisement for a Whitman's chocolate box from a Life magazine from, I believe, 1963. It features a woman leaning over the back of some weird chair to kiss her man who's reading the paper. She's got, obviously, the box of chocolate in her hands. It's cute, it's sweet, but there's certainly nothing to decipher or interpret here. It's pretty basic, pretty straightforward. It's an ad. Al Parker did a lot of work like this, illustrations for advertisements and magazines, but he also had a lot of styles and did a lot of different kinds of art, some of which look like they definitely could have deeper meanings or aren't just a literal scene, right? But I digress. Let's do a brief bio of our artist. Alfred Charles Parker was born in 1906, died in 1985, and was considered a founder of the modern glamour aesthetic, which I have never heard of before. I believe that's Art Deco. I think it's just Art Deco. He was born in St. Louis. His parents were really supportive of him pursuing arts, and I think the mom was a musician and his father was an artist. He even took up saxophone he kind of lived a lot of lives. He's pretty cool. He took up saxophone in his teens. I guess he had his own riverboat band in Mississippi. Very iconic of him, but all the while he was still drawing, he was still, pursuing that passion, and his grandfather, who was a boat captain, paid for at least part of his education at a fine art school, because I guess he for some reason didn't want him working as a musician, so he was hoping that he would become an artist. At art school, he met his wife, Evelyn Buchroeder. They had 3 kids, and she modeled a lot for his art, which is adorable. He started his professional art career with a local window display that got him noticed by an agency, which he then became a part of, but he didn't get really credit for his work there. Then in 1930, House Beautiful magazine hosted a cover competition. Some sources quote that he did win, and some say he just got an honorable mention for it. Doesn't really matter. That's what finally set him up in specifically magazine work, which was at the time what a lot of artists were. It was kind of their only option, was some sort of advertising / fashion / magazine work. There wasn't really much need for an artist beyond that, considering the state of the world and the economy. Before he was a cover artist, though, he did lots of women's fashion illustrations. He had background with fashion before that, so I think he had work to show for that. But also his work was just a lot more stylized than what was generally popular at the time, so he was well suited for that. And then it wasn't until 1939 that he finally became a cover artist. Over 13 years, he illustrated 50 covers for the Ladies' Home Journal alone. He also sold covers to publications like the Saturday Evening Post, of course, iconic, but also Vogue, Cosmopolitan, and Sports Illustrated, as well as other publications. Parker was really willing to be experimental and out there with his art, his subject matter, his composition, mediums, all sorts of stuff. He was much more, experimental than a lot of other artists at the time. It wasn't really expected in the illustration world. It was kind of here's the thing that sells, do that thing. Because he was willing to be more creative, and he was already so popular, he of course had imitators, which explains why he was willing to adopt so many different styles in attempt to separate himself. I also found one source that said he took on pseudonyms to literally try to run away from imitators. Overall, he was super successful. Again, can't believe I haven't heard of him. His career was great. He had spent time in the art colony of New Rochelle in New York. He was awarded over 25 gold medals and awards of excellence in the Art Directors Club and Society of Illustrators shows. He was induced into the Society of Illustrators Hall of Fame in 1965. As the popularity of all of these magazines and Americana art styles died down, so too did the popularity of his work, but he was still incredibly celebrated and highly regarded as an outstanding artist the rest of his life and beyond. Yeah, I'm just genuinely shocked that it took me so long to hear about him. I don't know if I have my head buried in the sand or if he has kind of faded into the background, kind of overshadowed by people like Rockwell. I don't know, but I'm so glad that I did stumble across his work. I really love it. I'm sure I don't need to explain why I love it or why I chose his stuff for today's Make It Gay. I think it just fits so perfectly. I love the more graphic style, but still has that feel, the, Americana feel. I think it's great. But now, let's talk about the changes that I made to Make It Gay. Sometimes when I do these Make It Gays, I can get a little in my head about it and kind of the mission, and it starts to feel like a challenge of how many things can I pack in here to represent? There's a checklist or a minimum requirement or something, which can sometimes take the fun out of it, or I feel mislead the whole piece. But I also want to make sure that I'm not just doing the same things over and over again, because at this point, these pieces aren't just for me, but they're for all of you too, and I want you guys to feel represented as well. And I am, just one person with one experience, and I don't know all the other things that I could be missing out on in my art if I don't reach out to other people to ask, hey, what are other things that I could be doing? So I was going back and looking through some of my previous Make It Gays, and I noticed a weird, interesting pattern that involved white people. There's almost always at least one white person in my pieces, which I didn't realize I was doing that. I don't think there's anything blatantly wrong with that. That's not bad. I don't want to imply that mixed race couples are bad. I don't think it's weird or bad. But at some point it's gonna be weird, right? If I do 50 of these pieces and there's always a white person, it's gonna be a little weird. So I knew right away that I wouldn't be doing any white people. It would be 2 people of color. Like I said earlier, I also asked you guys on Instagram for things that you would want me to include in Make It Gaze. I wasn't necessarily looking for requests for this one, but I also didn't necessarily know exactly what I wanted to do, so I was like, let me check out these requests just in case. I got a lot of requests for more trans people, trans masc people, also masc women and lesbians, slay, we'll get to that eventually, don't worry. A lot of non-binary rep requests, and a good amount of requests for a Black person with a Black or POC partner. A lot of requests for a Black person with a Black partner. And I already had a vague idea that I wanted the man in the original to be Black, so seeing that request just solidified that, that would be what I was doing. I would do 2 Black people. Now, listen. What I'm about to say, this might be horrible of me, but just know that I like color palettes, okay? One thing that I've learned about these Make It Gays is that a great way to subtly show rep is by using the color palettes of the pride flags of the identities I'm trying to portray. Especially in the much more historical ones, it can be a really easy way to do it without making it historically inaccurate. It's a good way to impress what I'm trying to do without it being overwhelming. I can't think of a good example of how to explain that. But I've learned to use color palettes of the pride flags, and honestly, some of these color palettes just don't do it for me. I think outside of a pride flag, as a pride flag, they're great. Outside of that, they're kind of ugly. And so a lot of times I've turned away, specifically from non-binary rep, because, and I'm so sorry, I just don't like the color palette. But I was like, okay, I've got to do it. There was so much yellow in the original piece, and I thought if I can make it work anytime, it'll be this time. So I went with a trans masc person and a non-binary person, and I was embracing the color palettes. Not a whole lot of thought went into it. It was just kind of, what felt right, what felt like it would fit into this pose, what clothes would I want to make characters wear, what's the overall vibe that I'm going for, how might their identities affect those aspects. Sometimes with Make It Gays, especially really old ones that are showing, some sort of Greek mythology story, every element is an important part of storytelling, or it's very historically specific. Sometimes the only thing I get to change is the people themselves. The clothes stay the same, they're period specific, the colors stay the same, whatever, right? I'm staying much more accurate or close to the original. It's different every time. But with this one being so modern and frankly so blank, right? There's nothing here that's important and needs to stay the same. I had a lot of freedom and was basically able to change anything and everything I wanted and just use the poses and anatomy as the base and a basic reference. So when it came to figuring out, what's changing, it really was just going by what felt fun and right. I ended up trying to go with a modern but 90s vibe. For the person on top, I wanted them to have longer hair so it could still hang down like the woman's in the original, so I just went with some basic and short dreads. For the person sitting on what, I ended up making it a beanbag. I don't know what it's supposed to be. It's a beanbag now. I gave them cornrows, which the whole head thing was an area of anatomy that I really had to fudge. Because obviously in the original, the guy has some intense helmet hair, and that takes up a lot of the dead space, the negative space between the arms wrapped around him and his face. But here, the hair is obviously super closely cropped to their head, which means that the skull has to be a skull shape. It can't be hair shape, it's skull shape, and so it would stop way sooner. It would be smaller visually, or it was gonna look really crazy and weird and eggheadish, so I had to do some finagling. Instead of trying to actually figure out what the clothes would be doing properly, like figuring out gravity and folds and whatever, I just painted all of that dead space black to make it kind of fade away. And honestly, I think that turned out fine. Anyways, I wanted to lean into that 90s vibe, or at least, like I said, modern 90s revival vibe, I guess. They're both wearing some gold jewelry, partly to sprinkle in more of that yellow from the non-binary flag color palette, but also it was definitely just the vibe that I was going for. In my original sketch, I had them both wearing wedding rings, and actually I'm looking at the piece now, and I'm realizing I forgot the ring on the hand holding the newspaper, so I will have to go back and add that. But yeah, I had them wearing wedding rings, and the Whitman box at first was going to be, some random book or something for them to hold. But since the book wasn't going to really have any significance or meaning, and this piece, I definitely have a lot of freedom to stray from the original, I decided I may as well go all the way and remove the box entirely, so I had to figure out how the hand would look and stuff on my own. But that meant that the ring finger wasn't nearly as visible as it was before, so the wedding rings, they weren't really as impactful or noticeable, which I'm a little bummed about, but that's okay. For the non-binary person, definitely a 90s inspired fit with a tank top with ripped sleeves, tucked into light jeans and a black belt. I've also got a chain on the belt loop and a non-binary flag patch on the side of the pant leg. They also have tattoos, which was another thing requested for representation. And again, since this is a much more modern piece, now felt like a really good time to fit those in. Our trans mask person has one of those super, super cropped sweaters to show off them titties. You know, the really, I want one of those. They're really cute. The one that's like literally like a collar and sleeves. It's pink, has a white and then blue stripes on the sleeve to represent the trans flag. Super, super cute. I honestly really, really love that. It was a spur of the moment decision to add the stripes. I think it worked out so well. And then underneath that, they have a binder on, which I don't know if that layering reads well or if it looks like one top. I don't know, but I think it's fine. I think we get the idea, right? I hope that's reading. But yeah, they're also wearing sweatpants. Nothing special about that, just a comfy outfit. The final changes were made in, of course, the newspaper. I added some cute little queer buzzwords here and there. It was actually really fun to paint all that stuff. I feel like normally that's the kind of stuff that I hate to do, but this time it was super, super fun. The process ended up being really easy going. I was afraid that I would be rusty since it's been a while since I've done a heavily detailed piece. I was obviously just off for a month and I didn't really do any art at all during that time. And I certainly didn't do any paintings of portraits or faces. The week before this, I did finally get back into sketchbooking, so I didn't go in totally fresh, but I was a bit nervous. This felt like, a big step. But I just dove right in. I didn't even do an underpainting, I really just started going for it. I didn't do a underlayer. I just started going in with full detail, and I had such a good time. I had a really good time. It worked out really well. The whole process was just easy and fun. The only issues I came across were anatomy issues, and I just decided to let those go, let them be, kind of embrace it. I feel like a lot of these older pieces, especially this kind of pulp genre, there's oftentimes anatomy that does not make sense, and you don't notice that it doesn't make sense in that person's style. In this case, the woman's shoulder, it doesn't really make sense. When I was mapping it out, it doesn't make sense where her shoulder is coming from. And I feel like in the style, and plus she's upside down, you have no idea, you don't notice at all. But in my piece, I'm changing the clothes and I'm trying to make it look, different, and it's in my style now. And I felt like I could tell really, really harshly that this is wrong. But if I fixed that, then there would be this domino effect of all the other things that I would have to fix, and then it would just be ugly and bad. So there were a lot of the head of our trans mask person, there were a lot of anatomy issues that I kind of had to just totally let go. And instead I wanted it to be a priority of me just enjoying this process and doing what I could do well, really well. You know what I mean? And because of that, I think I had a great time. It was really, really fun to just let go of the things that I knew I wouldn't be able to get right. And instead of agonizing over them, I just did what I could. And I think that allowed it to be a lot better than it might have been if I agonized, So the whole process was really relaxed. I felt really good about that. And I think it shows in the end. I think even with some of the mistakes or the things that don't make sense, I think the whole piece still reads. And I love that. I think this ended up being a really great Make It Gay. I had so much fun with it. I love the characters. The color palettes worked out so well. I don't think I fully embraced them. There's not a lot of purple. There's only the one spot of pink, but I still think the vibe is great. I think it reads. I hope that it reads for people who don't know what was going on in my brain. I hope you guys think it reads, but I think it's cute. I think it's tender. I think it's sweet, and it's exactly what I wanted out of this piece. Hey, she's done. She's beauty, she's grace, she's done. I have this issue. It's come up at least twice in Make It Gays. I'm sure it's come up in other pieces. But when I have to do profiles of heads, the one who's upside down, they've got the Buzz Lightyear thing going on. It happened in the Awakening of Adonis. There's something about the way classical artists, older artists, draw the back of people's heads. It looks like Buzz Lightyear. It happened in the sketch. I just knew it was gonna happen. I just had to accept it. Besides that, I actually am really, 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 really pleased with the way it came out. Anatomy with our person up top, a lot of anatomy issues overall, but I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna let it go. I'm just gonna let that go, let perfectionism go, and just have fun with it. And I did. I was like, I really should plan for color palettes, like I should do some color comps, because that has also been an issue for me with past Make It Gays. Didn't do it. And you know what? It turned out great. I went with the non-binary and trans flags, as well as like knowing I wanted to dark skin tones, and just tried to, as I went, try to like keep that all in mind. So things like having the gold yellow jewelry and the yellow background and the yellow beanbag, like some of it's true to the original, and then some of it was like making sure to keep those colors in as part of, you know, the flag, or just as part of the color palette. It ended up working out really, really well. I think it's fun. I think it's pretty. I like the pink sweatshirt being kind of like the only pop of pink. It also does match with the little hint of purple on the non-binary flag patch on the pants. But I like how it's centered, so it kind of offsets the two dark skin tones like next to each other. I just think it frames really well. I think it looks really nice. I'm really, really happy with this one. The only thing that I don't genuinely bothers me is the tattoos. I've never been good at doing tattoos. I just can't come up with ideas that like would make sense for a character. So I'm not against going back and adding tattoos. If anyone has any tattoo ideas for our non-binary character, for our non-binary character, let me know and I'll go back and add some, because I think that they would. I was picturing a lot more tattoos. There's 4. 1, 2, there's technically 5. I did a little tiny heart behind their ear. I don't know if you can even tell. But yeah, the teal shadows was just a spur of the moment decision, and I think it just worked. I'm really happy. There's always a lot of pressure when I do a sketch that I really, really love, and then it's like, oh my God, you know, the painting's gonna suck. But I think it turned out great. I'm really happy with it. This one and also the last one, I don't know if they're prints yet. Well, obviously this one isn't. I don't know if the last one is a print yet. They will be coming soon. I tend to just like, I don't do like one batch of prints. I usually wait until I have more things to do, but obviously I haven't been doing a lot of art lately, so I haven't had a lot of prints to buy, but I will definitely be getting these soon because it's Pride Month and I want these. They won't be available this month. It'll probably be a little too long. But yeah, okay, I'm just rambling. I'm really, really happy with this. I'm so excited about it. I hope you enjoyed this process. It's been a while, I think, since we've done a Make It Gay. I don't really know how long it's been, but it feels like a while, and it was really, really great to get back to it. I was kind of feeling, not burnt out in it, but I was kind of feeling like I was running out of really good pieces to use. And even still, you know, I did something much more modern. I still feel like I'm kind of running out of like really classical pieces that aren't huge, or the composition would be really difficult to do. But doing something like this, finding a new artist, and just felt like it opened up a lot of options, and it was really fun, really exciting, really cathartic. I love painting gay people, so I had a great time. Overall, just couldn't be happier. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, the whole shebang. Check out Squarespace, link is in the description. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring. I'll see you next time. Bye. Happy Pride.